Here we are again, the end of another month. March is just about behind us, and before teams kick off round 3, I wanted to take a look at the top 8 teams in the competition. Because we have an unfair fixture, it would be pretty naive just to look at the ladder and go, oh, well, they're the best 8 teams, and away you go. It doesn't work like that. Here are the 8 best teams in the competition at the end of March, ranked.
A lesson for young kids at home. He's got onto it. It's going. It's going. Oh, my word. Gone.
As always, I'm Daz, guys, and I hope you're having a fantastic week. But I don't want to spend too long in this little intro times 2, if you will. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. If you enjoy the content, click the like button. All that helps, but let's get into it. The 8th best team in the competition. They're on thin ice, the Power. They are on very thin ice. They are hanging on to that cliff by their fingernails. They've scored the least amount of points and conceded the 3rd most. So how the hell are they number 8? Well, they do have some injuries, and I know every team has injuries, but I still rank their top-end talent as some of the best. They've got Adelaide coming in the next week, so they should be off to a really, really good start. It just turns out that that's probably 2 weeks too late now. I think people are taking in the 0-2 sort of debate, and maybe I did this in my 0-2 video as well. Maybe took the performance against Brisbane, maybe underrated it a little. They didn't get the job done. They probably should have. And the aberration against the Hawks was what it was, and although I thought my Hawks were great and were fantastic across the board, on paper and statistically, Port Adelaide should have won that game. Many reasons why they didn't. But this is an 8th, not out of how they're playing at the moment, but this is also the last time that credits in the bank are going to be used in these videos as well. By the time we start the next video in April, they'll have played 6 games, and we'll see where they're at, but I'm backing them in to turn it around. And also, a lot of the one-on-one teams in the competition, I don't really have a lot of faith in. I think Port can get back into it, so they can sit 8th for now. I do worry about Ken and his ability to adapt, but this is not about future projection. This is about now, and Port are 8th. By that much. Another 0-2 team, I hear you cry, but considering Melbourne and Carlton have been their opponents and they've got Sydney again this week, 0-3 might not be, a really, really bad 0-3. Like, you look at Essendon as well, Geelong, Brisbane, and then Melbourne. That is a pretty tough start to the year, although I've got a lot more faith in the Bulldogs to respond after that. They're a team of momentum, and as much as we can have a go at the fact that up forward they look like a train wreck with no Josh Bruce, and down back they look like a train wreck overall. You'd argue that McKay, Curnow for Carlton, and Ben Brown, Tom McDonald, Bailey Fritsch as a trio, they're 2 of the best, probably 4 or 5 combinations in the league. So it might just be, and Sydney would be in that 5 as well, with Buddy and Isaac Heaney as that sort of 1 and 2 punch. So you'd argue they've just run into really, really good opposition. My concern with the Bulldogs and why they're not maybe 6th is their midfield hasn't really fired a shot. And again, you could say Melbourne and Carlton, 2 of the deeper midfields in the competition. You still need to fire a shot. Like, if Hawthorn lose to Carlton this week, and I suspect that they will, the midfield still needs to show up in some kind of way. The Dogs, they figured it out in the second half, which was great, and they were able to claw themselves back into that game. And if Josh Dunkley kicks those 2 goals, there is an argument to be made that they run over the top of the Blues, but I can't put them any higher than this based on the fact they haven't got the job done, and I think it would be foolish to keep them out of the 8. I think this was the most underrated win of round 2, and no one's really talking about it. Sure, Dustin Martin is a talking point, given where he's at mentally at the moment, and we wish Dusty nothing but the very best, and whether he retires or he plays on, whatever he does needs to be in the best interest of him and no one else, which of course he knows, but I hope some fans realise that as well. But the Tigers, their system, they held up under pressure. They had a fantastic win against opposition that, again, should have beaten them given the outs. But they did it really, really well. Noel Bolter looked really good. The Tigers, they didn't really have it figured out against Carlton, but everyone gets a mulligan in round 1, as we know, even the winners, if it wasn't a convincing win, and they bounced back in a magnificent way. A team like GWS could have absolutely knocked Port Adelaide and Richmond down spots if they had got the job done. They didn't. Dimmer Hardwick looks a little bit more rejuvenated and a bit more relaxed in his press conferences as well. I like that positive body language, and the fact the weight of the world is kind of off his shoulders at the moment works to their advantage. Is it hope? I don't think so. I don't think I'm taking Richmond's dynasty into account when it comes to their ranking. They are the 6th best team for a reason, and that is their system is better than their personnel, and they can beat semi-decent teams without a best 22. That's always a good sign for a good team. Carlton are 2-0. They have not done a thing wrong. The reason why they are 5th as opposed to maybe 2nd, 3rd or 4th is I still worry about their one big deficiency, and that is the key back department. Jacob Wiedering, he hasn't set the world on fire yet, but he's still an All-Australian calibre player. It's Mitch McGovern and Oscar McDonald that raise the most questions for me. Now, Oscar McDonald isn't going to play this week, and once the ball is in the air, McGovern and McDonald have done reasonably well. They haven't really lost a lot of one-on-one contests. When the ball hits the ground, Mitch McGovern takes on too many dangerous kicks, in my opinion, and Oscar McDonald just should not kick the football. Now, we had the same sort of problem with Liam Jones. We didn't really want him kicking the footy either. And Liam Jones was a very, very good one-on-one centre-half back. He didn't really work in the team defence, and Carlton's team defence looks really good. So I'm not saying Oscar McDonald doesn't play for Carlton or isn't in their best 23. He is, but we need to look at what he does rather than what he doesn't do. Whenever he marks the footy, Adam Sard, Sam Doherty, or the midfielders, just go around the back and use the stand rule and play on. Don't let him kick the footy. Mitch McGovern looks really confident in the air. But again, stop kicking it on the 45 to a contest and we'll be great. Carlton's forward line with McKay and Curnow looks awesome, and their midfield is batting so deep. I want to see a bit more from the Blues. 2 games in, new coach. Is it a sugar hit? Is this the real deal? I feel like in April, Carlton could be as high as 3rd. Who knows? But a win against the Hawks would be the right way to go. They're off to a flyer. I'm comfortable with having them as number 5. Geelong and Carlton were a coin flip, and again, this is why credits in the bank is a thing that's going to stop after this video. But Geelong also did have more inside 50s and scoring shots than Sydney last week, whilst having Patrick Dangerfield having 13 disposals and Tom Hawkins not doing a lot. I back the senior guys from Geelong more than the Carlton guys, as they've done it more, which is why it is Carlton 5th and Geelong 4th. But also on the Cats, this is now a worrying sign for the defense. We know Harry Taylor's not there, and Lockie Henderson, although he wasn't great, they don't look that settled down back as much as I think they should. Now, they've got Collingwood this week, and if they can nullify an up-and-about Collingwood forward line, then they'll look okay. They haven't really had a chance to settle in as of yet, with the Essendon not putting up a fight. Sydney, the sporting gods were probably going to let them get in the way, you could say. Not that that's an excuse, but I think their backline settles this week, and they keep going and going. If Geelong do lose to Collingwood and Carlton beat Hawthorn, then that is absolutely 4th and 5th. But we don't know what's going to happen. We can only talk about now. Geelong, in my opinion, are the 4th best team in the competition. If you put 20 more weeks into Sydney and 20 more weeks into, say, a Brisbane, I think in 20 weeks' time, Sydney are going to be the biggest challenger for the flag. They don't look to have many weaknesses at all, and in 20 weeks' time, the McCartan brothers are going to play more and more and more and grow more and more in stature. But the Swans at 3, it is really hard to rely on young kids for such a long period of time and to see where they go. All of their youngsters are off to a fantastic start. Luke Parker's kicked 5 goals in round 1. Isaac Heaney is leading the Coleman medal race with Mitch Lewis. If there is a less likely pair to lead the Coleman medal after round 2 in the season, I'd love to know if that's actually existed. So if you do know, comment below and let me know, because that's extraordinary. They're going to be a little bit inconsistent as kids, but this is where guys like Buddy, like Luke Parker, Josh Kennedy, who, if we're being honest, hasn't really done a lot in 2022 yet, but I'm backing him to go up and up and up. Dane Rampy has been okay. He's done good shutdown roles, but he hasn't been his most explosive best. Jake Lloyd missed the first game with COVID, so you can expect him to be a little bit off the mark, maybe a little bit early. I think Sydney have got the most growth in them in the competition, but with growth might become a bit of inconsistency. But in ranking teams at the end of March, they have not done a thing wrong and disposed of 2 good opposition in GWS and Geelong. And if they knock off the Doggies on Thursday night, oh boy, wowee, it could easily be a flip. But the top 3 spots are pretty much all up for grabs. It's got to be the Swans at 3, though. This team's only weakness, and I've talked about it with Port in the preseason, but Brisbane's only weakness is up here, between the ears. Because they've got the spine, Andrews, Gardner, Neal, McStay, pretty good. Hitwood's got to come back in, and then Danaher. Danaher's off to a really good start of the year. Everyone wants to talk about the handball to halftime. Good luck to you, but the other times he's been fantastic to start the year. Oscar McInerney has been okay in the ruck, but it can certainly hold his own. They've got good inside presence, good outside runners, and I think Hugh McCluggage has started the year a lot better than people are giving him credit for. So he's doing really, really well. Brisbane are a team that I think are going to be a really, really good regular season team, and I don't think they'll fall out of the top 3 in the power rankings all season at all. I would be shocked if they did so, but can they win finals? Can they go all the way? Too hard to say in March, but this is a group that are together. Chris Fagan has built a really, really good spirit around that group, and where they go from here is going to be an exciting watch for Brisbane fans, but they can score, they can defend, and they can kill you at the contest. Put all that together, that's the second best team in the competition. Is anyone surprised? Like, really? They did a really good job on the Dogs. They did what they had to do against the Suns, but they did kind of win in 2 different ways. Now, Oliver and Petrarca have been fantastic in both games, but considering the D's have also had to reshuffle their back 6, I think it's been a fantastic start to the year, and it should only get better next week with a win against a depleted Essendon unit. But the reason why I say they've won in 2 different ways is their midfielders walk the ball out of the front of the stoppage against the Bulldogs and did that in a fantastic way. Whereas I felt that Melbourne rebounded off half-back pretty well in this game to set up a lot of attacking thrusts. Now, Jake Bowie, who won the Rising Star, was a big, big reason for that. But even Oliver and Petrarca found themselves outside of the contest on occasions when it was being locked inside 50. So they've trialled a couple of things there, the Demons. They've come out on top pretty convincingly, and look, they're the reigning premier that are 2-0. It can't be anyone else on top of the rankings. So what do you guys think? Comment below. Let me know if you enjoyed the content. Click that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you tomorrow for my tips video. I'll catch you then. Goodbye.